Welcome to the Unbroken Podcast with Mel
and Chris.
And we are rocking and rolling on this Wednesday.
Rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And we have a guest with us this week. We have Lester Findorff, as you will call him. I call him Les. So
I'm good with that.
That's
what I call him.
I'm sure you've been called worse, right?
I have.
I would say probably so.
Yes.
Well, Les, we're glad to have you on. But before we get too much into it, we want to give our shout out to our sponsor, the Grill Guys. Like Skylar and Charlie, second to none.
Yeah.
Is that the way that saying goes?
I think so.
Okay. Well, that's whatever I'm trying to say is they're awesome.
Yeah.
If you need to, so it's Father's Day is coming up.
Oh yeah, it's Sunday.
And probably this will come out after Father's Day. So let's just say you messed up. You didn't get your father or husband something for Father's Day.
Or you did, and they were like,
we need to return that.
Yeah.
Return that mediocre gift that you got them, and then take them to Grill Guys.
Yeah.
And get them that grill or sauces and rubs, because if you aren't sure, so there's a few times where my wife, she doesn't know a lot about barbecue, and so she went in there and said, hey, my husband wants to do X, and they'll sit and ask her questions and figure that out, and then they're able to help her make a good decision, and they stand by it because they've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, they have. And they want to pour into people. That's what I love about them, is that they are really vested in this community. Yep. And obviously, they paid for our hosting. And so they want to see us do well, and they enjoy our podcast, and they want to help you too. Yep. So go check them out.
Check out grillguys417.com and see what they have on there. You can do some pre-shopping and go in and get some good deals. And if you want to call them and talk to them, you can do it at 417-647-5002. Let them know that the Unbroken Podcast sent you.
Yeah.
So Les is going to run out the door right after this. Fast. And
to
buy
the Grill Guys.
To the Grill Guys.
If they're open.
They're not. They're 10 to 6 is their hours.
Oh, there you go.
So
if they were open, I would.
It's bad that I off the top of the dome know their hours. One time I went there right at 10, and it was the one time that I think he forgot his keys or whatever, and I sent a picture with me in front of the door with this frowny face, and he's like, of course you're the one that's not there.
That's there when I'm not there.
Yeah, but count on them being there sometimes early. So, Les, welcome to the podcast. So you said this is your first long time listener, first time podcaster.
Yeah.
So a listener of podcasts.
Right.
And so we're glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's. I know Les because.
I just met him. He walked into my garage and said, is this the place?
Right.
I should have been like, who are you?
I was looking for the Grill Guys, but I found this.
Oh,
yeah.
Same.
They were closed. They sent you this way.
Right.
That's right. So I know Les. We work together at the community mental health organization that I actually just left.
Yeah.
So, and we were talking, Les and I have kept in contact after I left, and we were just checking in, see how things were going. And he actually came to me with a little bit of a query and something that he's really interested in, and something I've actually thought about. But even before you asked me that question, I had actually thought about having you on the podcast. And there's a couple of reasons why. One of the reasons why is the more I've gotten to know you and the more I've gotten to know your family, because I actually had the privilege of working with your wife previous to leaving for a few months. And so I've gotten to know her. And so, but just the more I learned about you guys is when we talk about the unbroken mindset, you guys, and you in particular, I don't know Ashley quite as well, but you guys live an unbroken life. And I don't know if you know that or not, but
he's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So when we talk about an unbroken life, really what we're talking about is somebody that has just been through thing after thing after thing after thing after thing, and it just doesn't let it define you, but it lets it empower you and kind of pushes you to the next thing. And so that's why you're here.
Sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you kind of came to me to is that's kind of why I was thinking I wanted you on. And then you came to me with this thing about wanting to further your education, which I kind of already talked about, and that you are somebody that really strives after growth and bettering yourself and living an unbroken life. Yeah. And so I know you're like, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm like, I know somebody that is also an expert. I would call you an expert in your field.
Subject matter expert.
Yeah, subject matter expert.
Me?
You've been doing it for a minute, in IT and cybersecurity and different things like that.
It's a trap.
So we're gonna talk about that apparently.
Yeah.
And then Office of Community Mental Health, and you're kind of in that deciding of where you're gonna go next with your life. So, but first, I would like to get to know and let the listeners get to know you a little bit better. So, who is Les?
Who is Les? That is a question that I've asked myself many times.
Yeah.
And maybe why we're here, because you keep asking.
I do, because I don't like to just end it at just Les. I like to just keep going.
I like that.
If there's more, is that a lesson?
Less
More?
or more?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Dad joke.
Oh no,
Full send.
I am all about dad jokes.
Yeah.
Who is Les? So I am going. I'm going to be turning 44 next week. We are actually. I don't know if you knew this or not.
did not. I forgot this.
We have the same birthday.
We're birthday
Your
buddies.
birthday twins.
Birthday
Our
twins.
birthday buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
Wednesday.
yeah.
I will be 44.
So let me throw a few more instead of like a huge net of like who are you, like what got you into like so and apparently mental health, is that what you're
Currently in, yes.
currently in right now? Yeah.
So early 2000s, moved to Missouri from Chicago originally. Got into corrections. Actually.
Okay.
Up in Jeff City, the old prison that's decommissioned. I worked there while it was open.
Oh wow.
So it was kind of my first introduction into any type of...
Wait, the one that's haunted?
Yes, I worked there.
Did you see any ghosts?
Heard a lot of noises. Didn't really...
It's just prisoners banging and moaning.
Yeah, and that's what you kind of... I mean...
Sorry.
That is... I mean, it's not inaccurate. It's...
Did not mean to do that. But
I mean...
hey, listen, what happens in prison stays in prison.
It's like Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, $20 is $20. Or zingers is zingers, what they use. That's all but I started in corrections there. That's kind of my introduction to learning how people, were.
Yeah.
So from there, then I went into law enforcement.
Okay.
A lot of years, worked narcotics at the end of my tenure there. Did some private security stuff. Jumped over to mental health as really just like a part-time gig between jobs. And a friend of mine.
Yeah, that sounds like a big jump. So like you're in corrections, which I know people that work in that, and it's just like you see some of the worst in people.
I mean, you're getting the people that have been convicted. They've gone through that whole
the whole process. And then I know a lot of people, they go from corrections into law enforcement. It's just kind of like a way to get their foot in the door. Mm-hmm. But going into mental health from there, that's kind of a sideways jump, kind of almost. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were involved there, did you ever have any contact with anybody like social workers or anybody like that to kind of expose you to the world of mental health?
A little bit. I mean, we had to do if we ever had a situation where we had to take a child in or whatever, we had to have social workers, children's division get involved. But I got out of that, and then I was literally just looking for a part-time job, and a friend of mine that was running HR at a local hospital here was like, "Hey, we got an opening. Come on over." I was like, I'll try it. And then now spent 4 years there, and then I helped open up another one, spent another 4 years there. Mm-hmm. And
was a director there.
Yes.
By the way,
like running.
He was running the show over there when he came to us.
We went through 6 CEOs in 4 years. I was there.
Oh wow!
And at points, I was literally running everything that I could without having the proper license by doing.
Yeah.
So I was running a lot of stuff there, and I know it sounds cliche, but at this level, helping kids is more meaningful to me because adults they're already grown. Their brains have developed, by 30, 40, 50 years old. They're set in their ways. And like I said, I know it sounds cliche. If I can help someone at this level, that's good. But really, if you can help them at this level, it's going to help them not end up.
Yeah, you can you can change their trajectory of their life. Like, even if someone changes in their 40s, like, awesome.
Yeah.
But like when a plane is flying and you can course correct it that much sooner, it's a lot easier
right.
to be on that. And there's those years of just probably living in that destructive pattern. So you found, it sounds like you found more fulfillment in helping children than seeing the worst in people.
Yeah. And I still wouldn't, I'd still work with, when I worked narcotics, I was still dealing with a lot of the worst and the worst, but, and it's not as glorious. Don't think it's like the TV shows and all that stuff it's really not that glorious.
Yeah, it's not CIS or...
No, you're not. I'm not like jumping through windows and like, if I did, I'd get stuck. I'm a big guy. So, you do kick indoors, you do stuff like that. I did some undercover stuff, nothing major. Like I said, not as cool as the movies make it seem.
Yeah, well, it's hardly ever like the movies anyway.
Not at all.
And so, did you ever find yourself like trying to buy narcotics or doing something? You're like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, or just...
No, actually, that was being an officer was one of my things I always wanted to do in life. Growing up, I just wanted to be a police officer. So doing it, I don't think I ever thought like, why am I doing this, or in a bad way, but I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the middle of a meth lab, and we just decommissioned, and we just took this guy to jail. And I'm like, we did this.
Why did you want to go into law enforcement? Is there like a thing that you're just like, that's it, or...
So growing up, and I'm an open book anyway. Mel will tell you. So growing up in Chicago, Dad was, he was a sergeant at arms for a local MC. So I kind of grew up in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sturgis, beer parties. Mom was in and out of clubs. She was a stripper, bartender, all this stuff. So I was grew up in the other side.
Yeah.
In and out of juvie when I was younger. We were latchkey kids. Half the time I wouldn't know where my parents were. My older sister kind of raised us.
Yeah.
Just running the streets, and then somehow survived.
Yeah.
But got to the point to where I thought, I want to be on the other side of that, because I hated the anxiety as a kid and always running and always worrying and looking over my shoulder. Like when you're in it, you don't really think much about it. But when you kind of have a chance to step back and breathe, you're like, wow, this sucks. I don't want to do this.
Was there stuff like, was there family friends or mentors or someone that like showed you the other side of it? Like,
how'd you get there?
Yeah, how did you see it?
To break that cycle is an incredible feat in itself.
There wasn't anybody like that, but we had moved from there to Missouri, and I think getting me out of that,
okay,
then meeting people kind of in this
maybe in
area,
like school or something like that. And so
I still didn't get fully out of it because, I was still young and I was still meeting people like, oh, hey, you do these things?
Hey, you want to party? Let's party.
Let's go drink. Let's go do this. But I'll tell you that I can remember the time that I stopped partying. It was the day that my ex told me she was pregnant with my first kid.
Oh, wow.
Literally, she said, hey, I'm pregnant. And I know this sounds bad, but I was like, oh, whose is it? Because I literally only met her. We did what we did. 3 months later, she tells me this. I'm heading back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And
how old were you?
20. Well, 19. Had her when I was 20.
Yeah.
So literally was just going to go back to Chicago, do my thing. And then she said, we're having a kid.
Yeah.
And we were both like, okay. So I stopped partying, and just from there was kind of looked at a different direction.
Was it one of those things? Because we've had some people on the podcast where it's just like, I want so badly not to have my kid go through the same thing I did. Yeah. Was that like your why was greater than the desire?
Yeah, it's very, very similar. And I felt like, I didn't want her at the time. I didn't know her at the time, but I didn't want my kid to go through any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me, when I was in that, I loved it. It was, it was awesome. But then thinking back at it, like in and out of juvie, fighting, stealing cars, doing drugs. I was doing all sorts of stuff. Like, I'm surprised I'm alive.
Yeah. And so it's funny that we got here because you said you wanted to be a police officer, and usually those kids are that way. You were running from the police. You hated the police. They show up. They're ruining your fun.
Yep.
You were in juvie. So like, did you, because they were a symbol of that other side, and when you made that switch in your brain, like, I can't continue this lifestyle because I now have a person to raise, is that kind of why that police officer side? Or
no, it kind of growing up, it was weird. Even though I was running from him and doing all the things I was doing, I still always envied police officers. Like, I liked what they did. Yeah, it was always kind of, it was weird. And my dad, he was still alive when I actually graduated the police academy, and he told me he was proud of me. And him being the lifestyle he was in, and he actually, let me back up a little bit. He helped me a little bit more. I should give him more credit because he wanted it. My uncles wanted me to join. My father kept me out of it.
Yeah.
I had to do stuff like, hey, Uncle so-and-so wants you to go do this or whatever, but never let me fully join. And he always told me he wasn't going to let me.
Yeah.
So he had to do, and I don't know if you know much about the MC life, but like, that's priority. MC, then family,
Yeah.
then everybody else.
I mean, I watched Sons of Anarchy. That's about all I got.
I don't even really know what that is.
I've watched all of those, and they have some similarities.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very true. Like,
so biker gangs, like
Okay, I
like
kind
Hell's
of was
Angels.
gathering
and,
that. Yeah.
he was the sergeant at arms. My father was, so he was the one that he was the bad guy. He was the one that took care of problems. If there was a fight that broke out, he ended it. If there was somebody that they needed to collect money on, he did it.
Yeah.
He was just a
Okay.
big bad.
So you're the dude that takes care of, like, go take care of it.
Yeah, you're
and
that
was
guy.
him. And
Yeah.
he was in and out of prison several times.
Wow.
For doing things, and then, but he, no matter what, it was, and I didn't really think about it till I got older and talking to a therapist, actually, that there was times where I would come home and he would make sure we're doing our homework, doing our stuff. You know, he had his problems, just like everybody else. But he always made sure, like, he'd always, like, give me these little, like, quips and life advice.
Yeah.
But then he would go off and do his things where he's, like, selling drugs and doing all this stuff.
He
But
didn't
always
want you
kinda
doing
kept
it.
Yeah. But if they wanted something from us, we kind of had to.
Yeah.
And growing up, I didn't really realize it. I loved it as a kid. I'm making money and I'm doing this. But after I grew up and talked to a therapist, I realized he was helping us.
Yeah.
So I should say he did help kind of in that.
Yeah.
So.
His own way. I mean, you're still family. Like, you still
Yeah.
want to get, like, you want your kids to have it better.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, like, how old were you when you finally joined or got into the prison system to be a correctional officer?
When that's one of the first things I looked into after my daughter was coming, and I just looked into something, and a friend of mine worked in Jeff City, and I was actually living in Salem, so an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
So I was driving an hour and a half one way to this job.
Wow.
But good money. It was great benefits and everything. But it just got to the point where that was just too much of a drive, and family and time and stuff kind of interfered there. So I needed something more locally. So I was about 21-ish.
Yeah. And so you did that, and then you got into law enforcement, and, like, did your family kind of, like, of course they said they were proud of your dad at least, but did they kind of give you a bad time, like, hey, narc? And
yeah, well, I had a couple of my uncles tell me that they could always use good police officers in Chicago.
I was gonna say they want you up there so they can.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
come over here. No, we need you over here. Oh, we can help you out. You need a job coming over here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing about it though is I'm still in contact with a lot of them, and if I ever really needed anything, they would help. They still help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
My
your
father-
family.
Yeah, he retired out of it.
Yeah.
He passed away back in 2009 from brain and stomach cancer, but he left on good terms, and I still talk to them all, and
Yeah.
any of the ones are still alive. And yeah, if I ever need anything, I can always go back home and just kind of hang out. And
That's cool.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I say that's cool. It's just because of that, the romanticizing of the lifestyle, but, like, I'm sure it's not as fun.
you know, it's fun as a kid, and you think of, like, all the,
Yeah.
everything's happening, the adrenaline, it's cool, I'm running, but then, like, you get to a point, at least me, I got to a point where I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I'm a
this
fat
is-
kid. I don't like running.
Yeah. So you get into law enforcement, you're loving it, but then you're like, I need to make a little bit extra money, or is in between, and then you get into mental health, and then you start realizing, like, hey, there's kids, there's people. Did you see yourself in these kids?
Some of them.
Yeah.
I always got that. You don't know what it's like, Mr. Les. You know what? I don't know your story.
Yeah.
But I know my story, and I know the similarities between the two.
Yeah.
And I start talking about things, and they're like, wow, this guy does
Actually,
know
yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
So one of the first things we related, like, because I just met you probably 30 minutes ago or so,
Pretty accurate.
but you walked in and we started instantly talking about, like, anime and stuff like that. Was, like, that nerdy culture still a thing for you as a kid?
It was. I was always, so I even played football in school, but I always, like, I never fit in with the jocks. I never really fit in with, like, the stoners.
Yeah.
I never really fit in. I always just I had friends in every area. I kind of talked to
I
everybody.
feel like I'm talking to myself right now. But
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just did my own thing, but I was a big nerd, and I'm on computers, and the next thing I know, I'm dropping packages off from my Uncle Spider, or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
and playing football.
Las arañas negras.
Right? playing football, then I go home and I'm on my my old
Yeah.
system, my old computer that I'm typing in, like,
Old bulletin board systems and, like,
typing
AOL.
code so it just says hi.
Yeah.
3 hours of coding just for it to be like
Yeah, I go bounce from one corner to the
Commodore
other.
64 and
Yeah.
all those things. But I
The
just
old
always
Commodore.
the nerd side of me always kept me kind of level, I guess.
Yeah.
A little more.
Well, it sounds like it was an outlet for you. It was something that was safe.
Video games were
And,
my huge.
and that's
Yeah.
where I was going, like, because I think a lot of people that have some kind of trauma. They find that escapism, and like sometimes it's the video games, the nerd, like watching the anime, the Dragon Ball Z.
I would even take it one step further and say that I have found, and this is just in my personal experience, that people that are empaths have the tendency to be involved in fantasy stories, TV. Like there's some lines in there, and I think somebody told me once that like empaths have a core like show or something that they watch, and that's why you'll see them like watch it over and over and over again, because it's like emotionally safe for them and they know what's going to happen. And so like for somebody that comes from maybe some rough like trauma circumstances, things like that, you might find some comfort in stories like this that are sequential and they make sense, and you are going to see some expression of emotion. And so that's my personal experience. What I found.
I mean, it's pretty close to how that was for me. I mean, my video games were my big outlet.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Ball Z, which was like 30 minutes once a week.
Gosh,
yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
remember that.
When Goku fought Frieza.
Great. So
I mean, like,
that
took forever, but when he went Super Saiyan for the first time, so cool.
I think it took so long to get through that whole arc that I had like 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like, literally. That's how long it took.
Yeah, he's over 9,000, but like it took a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the problem with those animes, I don't know if you've watched.
I have watched Dragon Ball. Actually, that is one I'm familiar with.
It's literally like the first 5 minutes was recapping what happened last time.
Yeah.
Then they're building up the Kamehameha for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's commercials. And then you get like 5 minutes of action, and then you got to wait a whole week.
Yeah. Well, then you get the person also narrating it, like,
Yes.
so you get like Piccolo or Krillin in the background, like, we've never seen power levels like this before, and the reason why is because they were so popular, and the people creating the storylines were making the comic books, the manga, and then the anime would catch up. And so, but people still wanted. So instead of something that could literally take 3 episodes, they stretch it into 30, and then they have flashbacks and they have filler. And they went back and redid a bunch of the Dragon Ball original stuff and removed all like the 30 minutes of yelling. Like my wife didn't believe me when there was like 10 minutes of yelling.
Yes.
Of like powering up.
Yeah, 10 minutes of him just powering up.
Yeah.
You know, the spirit power, whatever. Yeah,
like, and then they would like, oh no, and then it'd be like flashback, Kame, you know, like it. So yeah.
Wow, I honestly, I mean, I've watched that show
Yeah.
in my youth, and I don't remember that.
Oh, Toonami, like
Toonami.
you would go home and you would like, it would be on right at like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I did that.
So, but those kind of things,
Yeah.
like we lived for that stuff. Like, did you play World of Warcraft?
I did.
Were you
From
vanilla?
Yep. From vanilla through.
I stopped at pandas.
See, this one, I don't know. I'm
I
out.
think Cataclysm, maybe.
So Cataclysm and then pandas.
No, I played Pandas then. So then.
Yeah,
It wasn't much after that though.
Yeah, I stopped. I'm WoW sober like 10 years.
You know, good. Well, good for you, man.
Yeah.
You have a coin or anything? that you need to
I
get?
should. Like my
I
wife.
think, yeah.
Jen, like if you go back and listen to Jen's podcast, she tells
The
a
second
whole,
one. Or
the
no, the
first
first
one.
one.
Yeah, she tells a whole story about just I was weighing like 300 something pounds, and I'm sitting there at the computer.
It's like Cartman.
Yeah.
Or not
Now,
Cartman.
Kitty.
The South Park episode.
Yeah, South Park episode. But I was huge, and like she said she was a widow of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's a good term. I never heard of it. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, though.
It played a big part of my prior marriage, and that's not the reason we did separate. But there was a lot of that. I was in there. Like,
Yeah.
I worked. You know, we moved to Memphis for a while, and I was running security over there at a mall, and I was taking my tower to work with me.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it was not good. I was connected to my monitor and just sitting there playing, you know,
Yeah.
because I had to work.
You had a
overnight
dongle and you
sometimes.
like flip it over. So like, yeah, I raided with people that were in the military, and they'd be working overnights in like Germany,
Oh, my gosh.
and they would have their own rig there at work where they're on, and then
And they just basically unplug their computer and plug in
they
their
would
tower?
they would just have their own rig, or
Oh.
they'd have a little dongle where they toggle back and forth their monitor.
Yeah.
And so they could just push a button and look like, and they're at work, and they push another button, they're back to work.
like have a switch thing, and then
Yeah.
Yep, I can see that.
What?
Yeah.
I played with a lot of people from Australia for a long time.
Yeah.
My guild was from Australia.
That's cool. Yeah, I spent a lot of time raiding 40-man at Molten Core
Yep, OMC.
and OMC. Yeah, and then
Blackwing.
Nax was like my favorite raid. And then like when we killed Arthas for the first time,
Oh man, that was amazing.
so cool.
I'll tell you what, they're smart though how they did it, and I don't know if you know this, Mel, but they
Probably not.
have now turned around and put it back out.
Yeah, they re-released.
They re-released the original one.
Yeah.
And they're slowly going back through it like
Yeah.
they did 20 plus
They're about to
years
do
ago.
Cataclysm again.
So when you're talking about these different pieces, I know nothing. Okay.
yeah, we're speaking a different language.
You really are, and so no, it's fine. I can keep up. Are you talking? Are those like stories?
So they're really
Like-
smart. So
are
before I
those,
get
like,
into
story
before I
arcs?
explain it, I
Okay.
feel like I'm sitting there like so. My buddy, I was with him at Bass Pro, and he was talking about fishing, and I knew he was speaking English,
Yeah.
but I had no idea. He's talking about different Neds and rigs and whopper floppers and all sorts of stuff, and that's really I have no idea Ned rig and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. But that I feel like that's what we're doing with you guys and
Yeah.
our listeners. But so the original we said vanilla, so that's like plain World of Warcraft. It's so that you bought the game, and this game is not designed to be beat.
Okay.
And so you can't play through the game. You're online, you're playing with other people, and you hit an end of story. So like they would release
So like
and
there's
they
a
would
story
patch.
arc.
There's a story
right?
arc,
You're all
and so
playing
they
together. Is that
they
right?
yeah, and they release different little patches and things like that
Okay.
where you get more of the story over usually
Okay.
about 2 years, and then they'll release an expansion.
This is an experience.
Yeah.
And then the expansion is the first one was Wrath.
Wrath of Lich
No, that was the third one. It was
Burning Crusade?
Burning Crusade.
So my only like exposure to anything like this was the Sims game.
Yeah,
So-
it's a good one because like
Yeah.
well, like Sims 1, 2, and 3 like
But then
So-
you would get like an expansion pack, and then you would get all the things.
Very similar.
yeah.
Okay.
So but this
That's
one.
where I'm like making reference.
So if you get the new expansion, your character just comes with it, and then you can get more levels,
Got
you
you.
can get
Okay.
more
gear,
gear,
more
stuff
stuff,
like
yeah.
that.
Okay.
So it feels like through for me when I was doing this stuff, it was escapism. Do you feel like that was the case for you?
In a way, yeah, because I've always loved reading and watching these things, and I know it probably sounds like everybody, like, oh, I wish I was in that land, or that's me, but yeah, it was very much like I would love to do this if this was like really happening.
Yeah, and it's just like, and then you have friends in the games, you have different,
Right.
like it's
Like you said, you were people from Australia, people from Germany. Like that's crazy. You would never meet those people
Yeah.
otherwise.
And then usually, I mean, this is this is really dating me, but like it was before Facebook when I was playing.
Yep.
And so like
Yeah.
we'd have like TeamSpeak.
MySpace.
Yeah, Mindspace, you top 8. So we had TeamSpeak and different things. So you would have a headset and like you would sit and like we made a website for one of my guilds. And we made
Wow.
a mission, vision, and values for our guild.
Right.
And like
Good at that. See, you
yeah.
started so early. You were a revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary.
You
And
were
like when people
pioneer.
wanted to join our guild, they had to go and agree to our terms and conditions. There was software written. I mean, like, but it's because we didn't want drama. Like, honestly, I learned some of the leadership skills that I had and
There you
conflict
go.
resolution
Right.
because you had 12-year-old kids that were on there. They were just like raging and stuff. So we had to learn how to manage that. And then you had these people that didn't really know how to play, but they're playing with their spouse or their grandkids or whatever. And so you're teaching them. Like we had a guy named Mongo Mihai. That was his tune's name. I don't remember his name in real life, but like he's just this old guy that would just like, and vanilla WoW back in the day, like you can't just run off somewhere. And he would just like Leroy Jenkins and run straight into a mob, and we're like, Mongo, you killed us all. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was over here.
There's a hierarchy. There's ways to do certain things, and people get mad if you don't follow the structure.
Especially in vanilla, because you had to like rogues had a sap, mages had a sheep, you had crowd control, your tank had to learn how to pull one mob at a time. Like if you just ran into
things around.
Yeah, you had to kite stuff. So like there's different strats on different things. Now like the game is you just run into a bunch of like a tank picks up things that you heal through it. And I mean it's still fun. There's still like it's more of a dance where you don't stand in the poo is what we call it. Don't stand in like the blobs and stuff like that. But back in the day it really was like if you wanted to go do like Naxxarama, not Nax, like 5-man Zulu, like go fight Gojira, you would I mean that was a 2-3 hour
So
thing.
what I love about this conversation is like we've like unlocked this thing in your head that he has probably not thought about in
20 years. 10
Yeah.
a
years.
while.
Yeah, no, it's like
It's like
Ungoro Crater. You run around like oh,
black wing
Just this
there,
little like
Yeah,
I can
black
like, see
wing,
this little
10
file box in Chris's head.
Yeah, I was
And
just
he's
like,
wiped off the cobwebs.
right?
You're like, oh,
It's
there
like,
it is.
let me just remember here.
I will say though, like going through that game, I have met people. I've actually known people who have passed away.
Wow.
oh yeah,
And like one thing I remember specifically was my friend Russ passed away. He lived in Branson, and one day I was playing, and like his tune logged on, and I was like, "What?"
Wait, this
Gold
is
far-
after he had passed
This after he
away.
passed away, and I
Gold
was like,
farmer.
Hey, well, that's what I thought. And he said, "No, it's his son."
oh wow.
I said, and I remember, oh yeah, I said because he did play with him, but he
Yeah.
had his own account. He said, "I just wanted to jump on Dad's account and kind of see what was going on and kind of get some stuff for
Wow.
out of the guild and this and that." And I'm like, okay, and I was just kind of like, it hit me like,
Sure.
this guy passed, like this is my
How
friend who passed
Yeah.
away, and like,
Interesting.
he
Did you have
just logged on.
did you have a funeral in game?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
that's a
They do
thing.
weddings in game in
Yeah.
this. They do funerals. They
Yeah.
do. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Wow.
It's a thing. And
Yeah.
then depending if you're on a PvP or PvE thing,
yeah.
it's a little different.
There's whole stories where like some guy on a server was a huge like it was a PvP server, so which means like you could fight other people like all the time. And a guy died in real life on the Alliance side, and they did a huge server-wide funeral for the guy. And then the Horde characters found out about it and came in and wiped the whole funeral. Came in and just
They were very, very cool back then.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to talk to people and know people in real life that play it because I like to see what tunes they make.
Yeah.
You know
Were
what I
you
mean?
were you Horde or Alliance?
Both actually.
Okay.
But I was mainly Alliance.
Oof.
I know.
Oof.
I know. I had more tunes than Alliance.
For the Horde.
Yeah.
I thought I liked you. Just kidding. No,
I get it.
I started Alliance. I was a Dwarf Paladin when I started. But then I rolled my buddies wanted me to play Burning Crusade with them, and so I rolled a Belf Paladin. And then
I think everybody did. When
yeah, Belf Ballad, yeah, and then I went Death Knight, and then my main was Death Knight forever. So my tune's name was Duct Tape, and everyone called me Duck. And like, of course, I spelt it wrong because I thought duct tape instead of duct tape, and so everyone I got made fun of a lot.
Gotcha.
But it didn't matter. I was a pretty big deal on my server.
I mean, I don't want to.
No. So, but it's funny how we ended up here, but I think it's part of the story, like about like when we're going through certain things in life, or just that like World of Warcraft for several years of my life was like, I'm such a social person, but those were some of like I met some of the coolest people, but I was one of the loneliest times in my life.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I was just I would wake up early in the morning, check my auctions, so you could auction stuff off, and then I'd go to work, and I would throughout the day I'd be checking my auctions on my phone or online, and then I'd come home, grab half a casserole my wife would make, plop down in front of the computer, and I'd prepare for the raid or have a guild officer meeting or whatever, and I'd play until midnight, go to sleep, and then during the weekends I just play all weekend.
Yep. Some of those raids could be 2, 3, 4, 5 hours.
6
long.
hours, yeah.
6 hours. Yeah. And you have to, and you can't just take a break in the middle of it. That's the thing too. Like you get to a point where you're in it, and like your significant other or something's happening, or the baby's getting into stuff, and you're like, I can't help with my family. Because
especially if you're a tank or healer.
Yeah.
Like DPS, okay, whatever.
I'm not saying that's right, but that's kind of how it would happen.
Well,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So,
So
well, let's talk about like at what point did you realize that maybe you should step back from that stuff? Like, I know do you still play video games and stuff?
I do. I'm still playing the PS5, and I still play video games, but I've allocated my time a lot better.
Yeah.
Because it did take up more than it should have.
Yeah.
And I realized that it took a while to realize it, and I think a lot of it was escapism.
Yeah.
Because that was in my previous marriage that was not the best, and I think a lot of that was my way of just kind of like distancing. And
Yeah.
if I stay over here, nothing will go wrong, and type of thing. But no, now I kind of do it more at night when like, the baby goes to sleep, and my wife will read a book while I'm playing.
Yeah.
Or she'll go lay down and I'll play.
It's probably not an MMO where you have to like.
No.
Yeah, it's like I can stop at any time.
I don't think I've played an actual MMO in a long time because I don't want to get into those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll do a lot of RPGs like Diablo and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because I can go in, log out.
Have you been playing 4?
Mhm.
It looks awesome.
Yep. Max my second or third 100.
Yeah. I have not.
You've been busy though.
I've been busy.
You've been busy.
But well, so you started doing mental health, and like, what was like that switch? You were like, I'm gonna do this actually for the rest of my life.
So working in my first facility I was at, it was an acute and an RTC. They had both. For anybody who doesn't know, that's short-term, long-term.
I was saying, now he's talking my language.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
so
now
you get
we're
it.
on
You
the
get
same
it. You get
page.
it.
I was like,
So acute's going to be your short-term, could be anywhere from a day to 2 or 3 months.
okay.
And then your RTCs are your long-term, which I've had kids in there for 2-3 years.
And this was just a youth facility, correct?
Just
Yeah.
4 to 17.
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was crazy. And we had some 4-year-olds. But it was kind of just one of those things where helping these kids, like seeing this kid, you know, not a specific kid in my mind right now, but like seeing this kid mad, angry, and just wants to destroy everything. And like, I'm like, hey, that was me. Like, I was just a mad, angry kid. And I started talking to him. And of course, at first, it's never, you don't know what's going on. I don't. But then whenever I started seeing the small just steps of, okay, so now when he gets mad, he's not punching anybody.
Yeah.
Now he's sitting down into himself and thinking things over, and just watching that transition was, I just enjoyed knowing that they're doing that.
Yeah, you had a part in that.
Yeah. And one of the times that one of the kids graduated out of the RTC, he was in there a little over 2 years, and I used to do a lot of transportation, so I'd drive around Missouri, pick the kids up, drop them off. I'd even fly to different states and pick kids up.
I bet you that's easy.
You know, it's not, but I dropped this kid off, and actually, let me back up a little bit. They used to do these like Olympics every year, and then try to get the kids involved and feel like they did something. And he won a bronze medal, and he came up. He's like, "Mr. Les, I got this bronze medal." You know, I'm like, "That's cool, buddy." Like,
yeah.
And you know, a year prior to this, he wouldn't care about groups. He wouldn't care about getting involved in that stuff. He was a loner. I hate everybody, but he was excited that he won something.
Yeah.
And then they found a foster home for him, and I drove him there. And as we were leaving, he yelled back out to me. He's like, "Can I give you a hug?" I'm like, "Yeah, buddy," and like hugged, and I cried like a little baby. Just that's what I do. Anybody who knows me, I cry a lot.
Hey,
Fine. That's what we do over here.
Again, I feel like I'm talking to myself right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Better beard.
Used to be bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually shaved it to get the job when I worked with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, because I wasn't getting any work, and I was thinking, is it the beard?
Yeah.
Because literally, it was pretty big.
You're like, this ZZ Top thing's not working.
Right? And I'm part of one of the local organizations.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I don't know if can I say their name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, Queen City Beard and Mustache.
Oh, you know Bill?
Yeah, Bill. I love Bill. Bill's like, I just ran into Bill at Pride the other day.
Yeah. Bill, I graduated high school with Bill. And like, he calls my mom.
Yeah.
So like, Bill just shows up at my parents' house and hangs out. Yeah, he's a great dude.
He's just so nice.
His beard is down to like, and it's just like,
It's got to be so much work.
I played football with him in middle school. I've known him since middle school, and he had a full beard in middle school.
Surprise me.
Yeah. So imagine lining up, and like he was on the line in middle school, seeing him with
I would be very
with
concerned.
this huge beard
Coming out of the bottom of his helmet. Yeah.
Right. Like, is a dad playing right now?
Yeah.
Like, can we get a check on an age here?
Yeah.
But
So,
Bill was actually one of the reasons I joined, because I met him through another friend, and he's like, check this place out. And I'm like, yeah. And he's actually the president now.
yeah, he's been off and on. And he'll just come up and start touching my face.
Yeah, that's Bill.
He's like, nice beard, and I'm like, Bill.
Right. Boundaries, Bill.
Stranger danger. He's like, I've known you
And
since
he's a hugger too. Like, he's a huge hugger. Like,
That's awesome. I love that.
Bill's a good guy. Don't get
Bill's
me
a great guy, big dude, and he'll take his shirt off and he'll hammock up. Like I've seen him more of that man than.
Yes.
All right.
He does not.
But
like one of his events, he was in a Speedo, just a Speedo.
Yeah.
All right.
The great thing about Bill is the first time I try to lose weight, he's one of those that are just naturally athletic, and talented. First time I tried to lose weight, I started doing running. And he's like, I'll run that 5K with you. And sure enough, he trained and ran the first 5K with me.
Bill.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys he's in your corner. He's there to help you. A couple of years ago, I ran the fireworks tent here at the Walmart.
Yeah.
And he came up there, and he was up there for several days, like just hanging out.
Yeah.
Brought the family up there. You know, I gave him some, discounts on fireworks.
That's awesome.
Like, he's just a good dude. Just like,
we should have him on.
We should.
he is a great guy.
So,
Yes.
we definitely squirreled.
Yeah, I do that a lot. It's
yeah.
ADD.
I'm talking to myself. You're just laughing.
This is why you did this, right?
Yeah. I also work in cybersecurity, which is another thing that
Which I just signed up for.
Yeah.
I know.
So But let's.
Which I know about this much about. A little bit.
Hey.
It's some basic knowledge.
It's more than most. Don't click on stuff. What were we saying before we started talking about Bill?
We were just talking about how he had gotten to here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Then the beard, of course, that always.
Yeah. So you trimmed up the beard. And then.
Yeah, he came over and he started working with us. And I remember when he interviewed, because you were you were a referral from somebody else that was already on our team, and.
Well, I don't know if I told you, you actually called me on their referral or when they got the job.
Oh, that's
they used to work for
right.
me.
That's right. I forgot about that. And then I remember seeing your name and I was like,
how do I know this name?
I think I've already talked to this human.
Yeah.
And then you had applied. So, yeah. And now you're doing community mental health and you work in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Do a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, loving it
I
though.
hope so. I think I do.
Yeah. I
love the kids.
mean,
like I put a unicorn onesie on PJ Day.
yes.
Nice.
Yes, you did.
Just to do that because it makes the kids laugh and smile and makes them happy.
My cat onesie with Christmas hats on for Christmas.
Yes. You guys are literally the same person.
Yeah.
I really think you set this up for a reason.
I may have. I mean,
effect.
Yeah,
It's
before
fine.
we didn't even talked about how you play Dungeons and Dragons and you're a DM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something I haven't gotten into.
I've been stuck as a lifelong DM before, and I'm not a fan of that.
I saw this video the other day where it's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into D&D. It's like, oh, cool. And he's like, yeah, I wrote this character. I think I'm going to be a Dragonborn. He's like, oh, you like being dragon, huh? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, how about you? I mean, would you want to be like a full dragon? He's like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, your character would be like this real dragon. He's like, oh, well, I didn't know I could do that. He's like, oh, yeah. And you can be a dragon, like all the dragons. And he's like, and the whole time he's handing him like the DM manual, the DM board, and it's like, no, because like when you're the DM, you play everything.
Yes, you do.
Besides the characters.
That is why I like being a DM, because it's another kind of I don't know if you want to call it
storyteller.
Storytelling and like just playing different parts. And
Yeah.
And you can have multiple characters that are NPCs, and then all of a sudden you're like realizing your NPCs are having a conversation in front of, so you have to be like, well, sir, you're go over here and go into the tavern. And it's like, oh, I don't want to go to the tavern.
So all of a sudden
you're
we're
Gollum.
5 and
Yeah,
we're like back and forth having
Yeah.
conversations. Yes.
So you're Gollum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
Yes, my precious.
Yeah, and then just like, and then people are looking, and you're like, well, I want to talk to the cat. And you're like, the cat is it's just a cat. And you're like, no, and then a druid's like, no, I do animal speak. And you're like, okay, now I have to be a cat. Like, meow. You know, it's like, so it's just like it can be crazy.
It can be.
Man.
And the people that I'm running it for right now, like I said, it's my wife, her ex-boss from her old job, and a couple other people. None of them have ever played before this.
Yeah, so a lot of. Did you do a one shot to start him off, and then just like, or you're like, hey, no, you're rolling a tune.
I was
Let's
gonna do a
go.
one shot, but they're the type of people I know that if it was just that short, they wouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing kind of I think we played 6 or so sessions now, and it's probably just maybe a handful more, and we'll be done.
Yeah.
So
That sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it.
That sounds fun.
We
Goes back to my nerdyism.
yeah, nerd.
Yeah. So it's
Hold on.
fine.
The funny thing is, I don't think this conversation has gone anywhere Mel thought it would go.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're getting there
All right.
slowly.
Well, we are 43 minutes into the podcast.
I realize.
How about you point us in the direction?
You want me to get you there?
Yes, you drive.
Because
the bus.
normally I know where the bus is going,
Okay.
but I have no idea where the
Well,
bus
I
is going.
mean, these
here.
are our conversations. This is just what we do.
It is, but usually I can kick it back into it. But I don't know. You're like so excited about something. So
No, I was excited to have Les on.
No, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. So anyway,
Trust me, I keep talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
That's like a whole. Thing
And like
itself.
we haven't even brought up Star Wars yet.
We have not. But what we're really here to talk about is Les and his story. And so, he started working community mental health with me. It's kind of how we got to know each other. And now you're kind of like, so this is where Les has been. And so now we're really starting to head into a different direction. So tell us a little bit about like what is next for you.
Sure. So where that kind of started, back when we were working together, there were several times where she had mentioned, have you ever thought about going back to school and all this? And I was like, nah, I'm getting too old. I don't want to, get another $40,000, and I'm almost 50. And
Yeah.
all this other stuff. But then, I don't know, just kind of looking at it. My wife just recently went back. She's getting her master's to be an LPC. She talked
Licensed professional counselor.
Yes.
Nice.
I talked to so many people. I'm just so used to. Hey,
Yeah, I know.
Everybody knows what
I
acronyms are.
know. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm learning military acronyms like crazy right now.
Yeah.
My son joined the Navy.
I have something for you in my car.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're
I
good.
just remember that.
Squirrel.
My daughter, the one that I talked about, my first child, she's a Marine. She
Oh,
just
cool.
got out of the
That's
Marine
awesome.
Corps, so.
Yeah, my son actually is at MEPS right now, and he'll go boot camp tomorrow.
South Carolina.
Have you heard from him yet?
Yeah, I've been texting him.
Okay.
Like he has his phone still.
Okay, so he'll lose his
tomorrow.
phone tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's up in he's in St. Louis. He'll go to Great Lakes.
Oh, Great Lakes. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So that happened. So I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, you know, there was a couple of opportunities in our work where an education would have helped.
Yeah.
And we worked a lot on maybe my experience helped with that. And I just kind of thought, why not? You know, Mel was talking about it. She felt like it was good. I always trusted her wisdom.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And my wife, of course, you know, she's perfect. I always trust her.
On the
I mean,
record.
she's pretty great.
It's kind of a big deal. But no, she's going to school, and I'm like, and I've watched her embrace this going back to school thing, and just like, why not?
Yeah.
And then being kind of the nerdy side of it, you know, I was like, I've been doing the mental health thing. If you add all my law enforcement and everything, probably 12 years.
Yeah,
It's
long
been,
time.
And not that I don't like it. It's not that I'm bored with it, but I'm just kind of like, maybe it's time to try something
Yeah.
else I like.
Yeah.
You know, and like
So why? So tell me why.
why cybersecurity or why
Well,
just
just
do it?
why change? Why like? I want to know a little bit of the psychology for you on why. Because what I'm hearing you say is that you're comfortable and you like what you do.
Love it.
So why get uncomfortable?
I think because I like getting uncomfortable. You know what I mean? My therapist a long time ago told me that I like chaos. She's very accurate. Not that, like bad chaos, you know, but
Yeah.
things get too normal, I guess, and just kind of
Stagnant is the word that I always use.
But the job isn't really stagnant. And that's,
No,
and I've
it's
thought
not
about
stagnant.
that. It's really not. Like, and I've thought about that, but I guess in a way, the chaos that does happen there is stagnant because it's the same chaos.
Yeah. There's nothing's really like it's hard to surprise you now in that chaos.
Yeah,
It's like
Very little surprises me.
and it's almost like you could. For me, I'm an empath, and it sounds like you are to a point where just like
definitely is.
you start seeing this trauma over and over again, and these kids that you put your heart, everything into, like picking up kids, removing from families, stuff like that. Like, even though you love helping someone, I think there's a certain point where like my heart can bleed only so much.
Right.
Even though that is chaos, it's like you love what you're doing, but like I think volume over time it adds up and like it marks your soul.
And when he came onto this position in particular, it wasn't the best. Like things were not great. Things were a little bit messy. Things were hard. The relationship was not great within the atmosphere of the building. And so you had a lot to overcome when you started in that particular position. And so I think that probably challenged you, and it was something so different from what you had done previously.
Because a facility is a lot different than a
Oh
school.
my gosh, so different. And what we do is just so it's difficult. Yes, it's a very difficult job, but there is a lot of like once you kind of get in it and you're in the roteness of it, and it's just the same thing over and over again. So that sounds like you've kind of made a decision then. Where are you going?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Looks like I signed up for WGU, so Western Governors University.
Cool.
Online. I did a lot of research. They always seem to be in like the top 3 to 5, depending on what I was looking into.
Yeah.
They have a decent curriculum. I've read a lot about them. I've done a lot of research on the stuff they teach and like what you can go into afterwards. You know, penetration testing, infrastructure engineering, whatever you want to go. There's like a lot of paths.
So cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Is there something specific that you want to do in cybersecurity?
No, I'm still trying to figure that out because they even ask you, and my mentor I was talking to was like, is there a specific thing you want to focus on? And I'm like, I don't know. I've read all the different like angles, and I've read a lot of what you can go into, front end, back end. You can do all your certifications, and I don't know. I've just kind of
The CISSP,
yep.
CCSP,
all those things, and I've heard people say how hard they are. I've heard some people say they're really not hard. And I'll tell you what kind of pushed me a little bit was I actually went to our IT department where I'm at because I broke my Ubi key on the side.
Yeah.
And I go in there and I'm sitting there with my IT people, and they were just talking, and one of them is
And
like,
let me tell you, they're a great bunch of people.
they are awesome people. But I'm talking to like Paige, I'm talking to this new girl, and I said something about, hey, well, what do you guys need for a degree to work here? And when she's like, I've got this, I said, well, I'm debating on going to school for cybersecurity. And then like over here to the right, head pops up, and he's like, I have cybersecurity? And then I was like, yeah. And this guy named Austin, and he's like, I'm actually going through cybersecurity right now. I've been doing it like 2.5 years, and all this other stuff. And we just start talking about things, and we're kind of very similar, like you and I. Like we got on the same track on things. We were talking.
Yeah.
We understood each other, so it wasn't like somebody talking to somebody that's never done any. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we understood. And then I'm sitting there, and my phone goes off, my work phone. I look at it, and it's my Zoom, how we all contact each other from him, sitting 10 feet away with his school, a bunch of videos, and he's like sending me all this information about stuff as I'm just sitting there talking. And I just started researching, looking through it, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is. It just
That's
felt
cool.
right.
That and the interesting thing about cybersecurity, and I've been in IT for 16, 17 years, is when I first had the opportunity to really dive into IT, I didn't take it, but it wasn't like, hey, we need to find people with degrees. It was so new.
Right.
Like a cyber threat was, you got a virus and your computer doesn't work, and not ransomware and not any of that kind of malicious work. And so like if you were interested in cybersecurity, you'd step into it and just kind of figure it out. Right. So a lot of the people that I talk to that are old school cybersecurity guys is just like, well, I just fell into it. And now they have the certificates, they have the degrees, and I need to get you in contact with the MCCOE, which is happened to be like one of the only places in the United States that takes students and get them real world cybersecurity application. Because a lot of times you're like, hey, I want this job. And they're like, cool, you have a degree. Awesome. What kind of experience you have? And you almost have to like go take a help desk job somewhere and like help out with IT or cybersecurity for anyone to ever look at you. Or you have to already have the IT job. Right. Go get your certs and get set up. So like cybersecurity is how do I say it's nice? It's very stressful. Because you think the stress is generated from fighting the bad guys. Like the stress is from convincing.
You've told me this before.
Yeah, convincing people within your organization to do the right thing.
Okay, makes sense.
Because it's just like you can talk to people and you're like, you don't want XYZ to happen, right? No, I don't want it. I don't want to take any risk. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what that means is we have to do A through Z to be secure. Well, that's going to slow me down, or that's going to add process. That's going to do that. And I'm like, yep. And they're like, well, I'm not willing to do that. And I'm like, okay, then you're willing to accept risk. Yeah. And as my job to protect stuff, I'm not willing to let you take that risk. And then all of a sudden you're at an impasse because some of those people you're talking to are executives. Yep. And so you're just like, and so it's just like, are you willing to let your whole infrastructure be shut down for 45 days minimum?
Yeah, ransomware.
No, not at all.
Anything like that.
I would not. Okay, then you have to do this. And so like CIOs and CEOs and CISOs, like they're at like IT. Your job is to get the people what they want, get them everything they need, and get them going as fast as you can. Cybersecurity is your job is to prevent risk. Right. And those two things are at odds. And especially if you have a department like mine where I wear both hats, I feel like going back to Gollum, I'm in the corner, I'm like, give them what they need. They need to work faster. And on the other side, I'm like, no, they're going to bring viruses in. I'm literally going to the different side of the thing. Yeah.
You better clip that.
Yeah.
And we better put that on Instagram.
My precious. But like, seriously, I'm sent, and like I have my cybersecurity guy that he's just like, so I have people that are just like, lock everything down. It needs to be secure. And then I got other people that are just like, just open it all up. And so it's just like, you're at war with yourself. So I'm telling you all this, cybersecurity is very rewarding.
Which I appreciate.
But it's, I feel like people don't realize that in cybersecurity, there's your bad day because 80% of all organizations get breached at some point.
Mm-hmm. So funny story about that. My husband's the company my husband works for, their server got hacked. Somebody clicked on something, and I was like, "This is the things that Chris tells me not to click on right here. This is the example."
Phishing, or you got something out there, some type of.
You could have,
and their whole server has been down for like 2 days.
Yeah, you can have the most robust infrastructure, roadblocks, zero trust, everything.
Right.
And one person with just the right amount of access can break.
Well, and it's
down.
It's crazy to think about like what they must have had. And they build playgrounds. And I'm not saying that what they do isn't important and they don't have information to be secured. But then we talk about like mental health, and we talk about like,
well, that's why hospitals and
and
municipalities
like all the, I just think about like all the authorization that I would have to go through, and how frustrated I would get when I would have to do my I called it the Octa loop, where I would get stuck in the Octa loop, and I would like have to just like re-authenticate and re-authenticate and re-authenticate, because we worked remotely, and so and Les still works remotely, and so like that whole like, I can't even imagine the complexness. I don't know if that's the right word. The complexity. Of a system like that.
Well, AI is just making it 1,000 times more scary, because before you'd have spelling errors. AI is just like throwing stuff out there much quicker.
Generate this, and it does.
Yeah, and it does it, and because it doesn't have a conscience.
Right.
It's just like, okay, write a phishing campaign that I'm going to send to 10,000 people. These are the kind of people I'm targeting. And it'll be perfect English.
Wow, I would see, and like for me, like I would never think to do that. Like,
I guess my wife all the time, like she'll say, "Hey," and she'll like scoot the laptop over, like, "Do I click on this?"
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Don't even hit the cancel.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, people can text you. You can do all sorts of stuff. And like the thing is so phishing and spear phishing, those are super bad. But shadow IT is just as bad too. So shadow IT means like people bring their own stuff. Like, okay, my IT department locks all my crap down on my computer. I can't do it, so I'm gonna bring my own laptop in and plug it into the network. Well, your computer, or I'm gonna go online and get onto this one website and upload or get, because, hey, I hate Microsoft Teams. It takes forever to transfer files. I'm gonna just use Google Drive. And so they open up Google Drive, and who knows what they have on their Google Drive, and they start sending stuff up, or I'm gonna install this software onto my computer because it's the one the city, or not the city, I work for the city, but like my organization doesn't approve, so I'm gonna still install this other. So it's just the shadow IT is, I can't protect what I don't know.
Right.
And so you have these users that don't understand the why, or they think you're slowing them down, or you're getting in their way, or you're preventing them from being efficient, but really you're just trying to protect.
Right. Yeah. What would you gain from that? Like if they would sit there and think about it, like what would you actually gain from slowing? If you're trying to maliciously slow them down or whatever, like nothing.
Sounds like we need to ruthlessly eliminate the hurry.
Yeah.
Which was our episode last week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like there's a tyranny of the urgent.
Yeah. That's a good one. You should write that down.
That. Yeah.
Tyranny of the Urgent.
That now.
Yeah, right now. It's a book. I can't. It's a little pamphlet.
This is not trademarked.
Hashtag not Chris. But
also, I think the whole cybersecurity thing for me too is because it's another level of challenge.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it sounds like, from what I'm hearing you both say, sounds like that could be extremely challenging.
Well, someone like us, because we're the same person, you can bring a level of communication and empathy into a conversation.
Yep.
And
literally what I was thinking.
Because a bunch of IT guys, they like to sit, especially cybersecurity guys, truthfully, lock everything down. Don't let anyone have anything.
Well, I think about like the place where we worked, like they are stereotypical, like they're legit in the basement.
Yeah,
they are. Like
like
I walked in and
it's like way to like totally like stereotypically like give them the right space.
My department's in the basement too. We weren't before.
Exactly. It's like, why do we do that?
I think it's a lot of like servers.
Our servers,
issues,
our servers are in the basement.
It's just like a thing.
Yeah. So you must be with your servers. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I have to go in there and like, again, my precious.
As he walks
the thing is, it's like I can control my servers from across the United States if I need to. Like I really don't need hands on.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to communicate the why. And relate and tell people on their level is a skill set a lot of cybersecurity professionals do not have, and that's what's needed.
And I could definitely see how you have that, and so do you. so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I know so. Like I don't need a I hope so. Like you 100%. I mean, I feel like that is the thing that I have really seen shine in you, is that you have these really amazing skills of making people access things that they probably would never before listen or lead or, and something like that. It's a skill you definitely have.
Well, I appreciate that. I've heard other people say similar things working in like the hospitals I worked in, and I don't know. I don't mean like
you don't do it on purpose.
No,
I don't do it on purpose either.
Right, I've had
but people
like,
follow me.
They can't get a situation calm down, and I just walk in and I'm just like, boom, here, try this, and it works. And I've had that cause problems before.
It's called ADHD.
Yeah.
I'm serious, because you walk in, you can read the room.
Yeah. One of my first, I can remember a quick story. One of the first places the second place I opened, we had to convert a whole hospital into a psych hospital. So nobody there had psych experience.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of uphill battle teaching people trauma-informed care, TBRI, all these things. And one of the first things I remember was I got called to a room, and there was a kid, mattress on the wall. He's punching the mattress. He's mad. He's screaming. And the guy looks at me and says, "You need to restrain him." And I said, "Why?" "Because he's upset and he's punching the mattress." I said, "Is he hurting anybody?"
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Well, no, but you need to restrain him. He's upset. He's mad. He's angry. You need to restrain him." I said, "Well, why?
He can turn around at any point and come at you." And it's like,
he's tired.
So I said, "What's he mad about?" "Well, what does it matter?" We want to find that out. I don't know. So I go talk to the kid, and he bulks up when I walk in. I'm like, "Hey, man, what are you mad about?" He's like, "They won't give me a shower." Okay, give me a second. Walk back out. I'm like, "Can he have a shower?" "No, we don't shower till tomorrow." "Okay, can we give him a shower tonight?" And this whole thing could probably calm down. And then he hands me the clipboard and he says, "Do what you're going to do. You're not going to listen to me anyway." So I said, "Okay, cool."
This solves my problem.
I went in
way.
there. I'm like, "Hey, man, if I get you a shower, will you be good?" And he said, "Yeah." And he kind of looked at me like, "Who are you?" Because I'm still fairly new.
Yeah.
I said, "I could tell you what. I get you a shower. Do me a favor. Pick up this mess. Put your bed back together. I'll get you a shower, bro." And he's like, "Okay." Get the kid a shower. He was fine for the next several days.
Yeah.
And all it took was finding out why he was angry, and just that little step of like. And that guy went to my CEO called me and he's like, "Hey, I heard you had a problem. What's going on?" And I said, "Am I in trouble?" He said, "No," but he complained that you were stepping, on his toes and all this other stuff. So I explained the situation, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't see a problem with that."
Yeah.
But I've had that several times, like cause problems for me because I would step in and tag people out of situations. Like, "Hey, why don't you let me try something?"
Yeah. And that's just.
And I get it because.
Egos.
Yeah, it is. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if I have an ego or I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. But anyway, I don't care. If somebody wants to tag out, cool, try it. Maybe your stuff, or maybe you'll work and mine won't. I don't know.
I want to do a psychology joke really bad right now.
Do it.
You have an id, ego, and a super ego. I'll see myself out.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses, folks.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that it was one thing that I've kind of had to realize is like I can't control the way that people react to me. Like I care.
Yeah.
I care about how people perceive me. And so like that matters to me. But like you can't change how people react. And when you want somebody to respond versus react, you can't, there's nothing you can do about that, especially when there's no trauma-informed care or anything like that. When everybody in the room is escalated, like, and nobody can realize that we're all escalated, we're all in the same boat as that kid punching the wall.
Yep.
Well, I think too, like, I know in law enforcement, they teach you to de-escalate something and to look at the whole picture. Yeah. And you have to think outside the box. There's really not a game plan. Like there's framework, but you walk into a room where someone's punching someone. Like I know I go to lunch with police officers every day, because I'm in the basement of the police station.
Nice.
But they'll walk up and be like, "What's going on?" And it might be someone just like, I mean, every now and then you have to get firm and stuff like that. But a lot of times it's like, "Hey, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And let's de-escalate the situation."
A lot of those people aren't used to that. A lot of those people are like, they get angry, they get mad, and that's what they do.
Yeah, when you react in a way that's opposite of what they expected, it almost shocks them out of it.
Yeah.
When I used to train people, and I'd tell them, and they watch me in the middle of something, and I'd ask the person, "You mad right now?"
Yeah.
And then, "Why do you ask if they're mad?" I said, "Because if they answer me, they heard me. I'm in there.
Yeah.
We're on the same length now.
I've seen that there's a technique where like someone just rage about something like, do you like banana bread?
Yep.
And they're like, what? Yeah, I love banana bread. And you're like, cool, man.
Yeah, I had somebody I worked with once, and she was working with an individual with very, very severe autism, nonverbal, could be very aggressive, all of that stuff. And he was having a behavior one day. It was at school, and he was having a behavior one day and just rampaging. That's the only real word there was to it, is that we had lost control. He was out of the classroom. Anyway, and a bigger kid. And so she just walked up to him and was like, high five, stopped everything. And he was like,
yeah.
And then it was like, and he went back to,
Yep.
it was like just this, like we watched it back on the cameras and we were like, what just happened? Right. But it's because you break that cycle of frustration and anger and, and those kind of things. So, and sometimes I think we really get caught up in trying to put something on somebody else. Like they're doing that out of defiance. Like, how do you really know that?
I got a lot of that pushback when I was training.
Like, how do you really know that somebody's doing that out of defiance? We can't ever really know. We're not mind readers.
No.
So,
a lot of it's
not our job.
Yeah, a lot of it's like, if you go back to Maslow's, if they don't have their basic needs, they're...
Exactly.
Yeah. And I had a guy that, Junior, worked for us. Mm-hmm. When he worked for me, he used to carry these bubble guns.
That guy.
And right in the middle of a crisis,
he would
just pull it out and start shooting bubbles. In the middle of a crisis, a kid's trying to stab somebody, whatever it may be, and he's just shooting bubbles in the air, and the kid starts laughing, and I'm like, "Yes, this guy's
brilliant.
He's going to go far.
He's absolutely brilliant."
So, I mean, who has seen bubbles and frowned?
Right, exactly. How can you be mad at?
I mean, that's at Disney World.
Because what are you going to do? Go and pop all the bubbles?
Yeah. Yes.
And you just gave him reason to squirt more bubbles.
I would pop every bubble.
But then you engaged in a coping skill of getting some of that movement out. So either way, it's a win-win.
Yeah, good guy.
So Les, if you can believe it, we're at an hour.
Oh, wow.
But I think
I know.
I think my question for you is, if you had something, if someone walked in, or like if someone, let's just say, like, what would you want, or you'd hope to hear if someone was, hey, Les, and how they would respond to that? Like, is that a good question or understandable question? Because I always like, how do people feel like when you say like, oh, do you know Mel? And people smile or they respond like, how would you want them to respond to that?
How would I want somebody to respond if somebody asked somebody else about me?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, hopefully, at least smile. I mean, it's, I don't put myself up, like I'm on a soapbox. I don't put myself up there high. So as long as somebody's just like happy that I did something or just acknowledge that they know me, I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take much.
What do you want your legacy to be? I think that's the question I would...
You took it right out of my mouth.
I think my legacy would be, and I've thought about this before, is I want to do the best I can for my kids.
Yeah.
And anybody else that comes after, my grandkids, my whatever, because I want to set an example for them.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds very cliche.
No,
but
it doesn't. It doesn't sound cliche at all. Something that I have just noticed in my time, and I am not that old, but I've just really...
over 40 in here are offended.
Sorry. I am a master this year.
You are.
I am.
I'm 35.
I'm a master this year. I've just, something I've noticed is like those of us that crave this like next thing, like we really care about showing the next generation that anything is possible. Because it's interesting for me to like hear you say that and like reflect on that within myself, because like one of the things that like for my why, and maybe this is why we just all of us kind of fit in on the same level, is like I want my daughter to look at me and be like, I can do anything I set my mind to because I watched my mom do it. Yep. She had these dreams, she had these things, she had this thing you want to do, and I loved hearing you talk about like that, in the conversations that you and I had of what's next, what do you want to do? Are you here? Are you there? Like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Like, I think those conversations are so important, and you obviously have this mindset of, I do want to have a legacy. I do want to have my people look up to me and look back on my life and smile. And so I don't know. Something I've noticed is that people that are, I don't want to use the word successful because I don't feel like that's the right word.
Resilient.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
Resilient, relentless.
Stubborn.
Stubborn. that we keep going and we live unbroken. So we're back to that. Hashtag unbroken.
I just want my wife to be proud of me, my kids to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And not because I want that. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to be happy for me, but I know that I've done something if they are happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why.
That's the outcome. Like, I've talked a lot about recently with clients about outcome-based goals and all of those things. And like, and yes, we have to have those. They're a requirement, but we also have to have these like things along the way that are telling us that we're moving in the right direction. Yeah.
If you had to go back and give yourself advice,
it's a big one.
When you're, that 20-year-old kid that decided to change your life, what advice would you give that version of you?
So once I get into cybersecurity and I create a time machine and go back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's
where we're at.
When you get into cybersecurity, we issue you one.
See,
yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I read the forums.
Yeah.
What would I tell myself?
Yeah. What advice?
Man, that's a good one. I would say just don't be scared and try it. I mean, there's been times where I've thought, maybe I shouldn't do that, and then I've regretted it. So just try it, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to fail.
Yeah.
And what's a fail? It's just a learning opportunity.
Yep. Yep.
You know, you move on, you learn from it, and you go on. So I think a little bit of that, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Cool.
It's good stuff.
This
has been so educational.
Yeah, it's been fun, and and I think you set this up.
I did. I literally did.
Yeah.
I literally set this up.
You've been smiling ear to ear the whole time.
I love it.
You're just like sitting there.
I know. I love it.
Look at these two nerds.
I know. These are just, you guys are both two guys that I care about, and this is fun for me.
We haven't even, before we even hit record, I went on to this huge explanation of the New Republic of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the new show, The Acolyte, and we were tracking, and Mel was just like, huh? And Mel is a huge Star Wars fan.
I am. I'm just not deep in it.
Yeah, not yet.
Now you asked me about CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's a different story, but it's fine.
Yeah. You're just like, all the principles of, but.
As you can tell, I do not CrossFit.
It's okay.
That's right. Yet.
Right.
It's a cult. Come have the Kool-Aid. The Colt-Aid.
Colt-Aid.
Yeah, but. Well, cool. I appreciate you coming on. Like we always tell people, your time is a gift, and listeners, we appreciate your time, your hour that you either watched us, or you have listened to us. So if you like, subscribe, YouTube, ring the bell. Shout out to John Reed for helping me get these YouTube videos synced up. Apparently, it's a lot harder. Even though we clap to get the audio synced, I need to buy different software, and he has it right now, so he's actually really helping us out. And so
John Reed,
it's that guy. The software's like thousands of dollars, and so I'm sure there's someone out there that's just like, oh, you can do it free on the beep bop boop be deep.
So drop that in the comments below.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I have this. I have a software. The manual is like 4,000 pages.
Oh yes.
And I finally went I think this is like my old man moment where I'm like, I don't have time to read this garbage. I just need.
Who reads instructions?
Yeah. So usually I'm pretty good at just looking at technology and figuring it out. And this one I sat at and looked at, and I was like, no. So I have a buddy that's gonna sit down with me and show me how to use it.
Well, it's not your area of technology.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm a jack of all trade kind of person.
Master
Sounds like you are. Yeah. So enough to be dangerous in lots of different places.
I've broken a lot of computers fixing them over the years for people.
Yeah, I tell people the reason I'm in IT is because I had to fix my dad's computer before he got home because I'd break it.
Yep.
Because I wanted to play WoW, or this was before WoW, but I wanted to play the games that I played, full graphics all the way turned up. Yep. Or I would, LimeWire or Napster.
Listen, I remember those.
Yeah, I would be I had Napster. I was an early adapter to Napster. I am the Napster. No.
Right.
So.
Funny story about that is I'm a huge Metallica fan.
Yeah.
And because of their ones
yeah, they brought the Napster down.
Yeah, they did.
And LimeWire stepped right up and gave viruses all across.
Pirate Bay, any of the other ones, yeah.
So it was always so frustrating when you start a download. So you'd queue up all these different downloads, and then you would go to bed.
Yep.
And you would, because if anyone picked up the phone, it would stop them all. So like you would hope that no one would call, and if you had call waiting, it would automatically. So you kick off all these downloads, you go to bed, you get up in the morning, first check, and see what was done. And nothing would be more frustrating than the first like 5 seconds of the song would kick on, and then it would just go, and that was just people trolling people. Even back then, they would just make an MP3 of static just to make it so you thought you were getting like Hootie and the Blowfish, but no Hootie.
Right.
I love that.
All
That's
blow,
what you
blowfish.
pulled out was Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yeah, the Chumbawamba.
There you go.
Tub thumping. I wanted me some tub thumping.
All right.
Mambo number 5. Whatever.
Mambo.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Trumpet. Sorry. All right. I will. Mel, do you have anything you need to add or plug or?
No, we're doing the thing over here.
Yeah. If people wanted to find you on any social media or anything, LinkedIn, is there a way to find you and reach out?
I have a LinkedIn just under my name.
Okay. Which will be, your name will be in the description of the podcast.
I have, Facebook, more than one, I take people I don't know all the time, people from overseas, people want to hack my account. I take everybody.
Yeah.
I'm a equal opportunity friend.
Just in case one of those Egyptian princes want to give you millions of dollars, you keep giving your checking account out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because why not take that
Why
chance?
not?
Why not help somebody?
Roll the dice.
Roll the dice.
I used to do stand up and sketch comedy, and one of the sketches that we were working on was an Egyptian king prince trying to give away all this money, and no one would send him the information because it was
real.
No, because he was actually the joke was he was really trying to help people.
Yes,
but everyone did their cybersecurity training, and they're like, nope, I'm not going to fall for this.
And he's over here like, I just got
piles of money I want to give away, and they're like, not today, Satan.
Another connection is I used to go to Second City all the time in Chicago and do improv.
That's what I did improv. Yeah, I did a skinny improv. I did comedy sports. Nice. I did Comic Frenzy. I did all sorts. And then I did stand up.
You too.
Us too.
I knew it.
Get out of my head.
Right.
I wasn't in a biker gang family. Dang it.
Maybe we were like separated at birth.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. That's it. 2 years in advance. Well, Les, this
I need to
was
talk to Mama Crosby apparently.
Yeah.
About this.
Yeah, she'll be like, I have no. She would have been 16, 17 years old. So, which is fine. It happens.
Right, it does.
It does happen. The 70s were a wild time.
Yes, they were.
So, Les, it was a real pleasure, and it was fun talking. Guys, make sure you go check out the Grill Guys.
Yep.
Give them a shout out. We might be picking up another sponsor here a little bit, so we'll have 2 sponsors to shout out. A guy's flying out from Salt Lake in a few weeks to be on the podcast. Not just about, he has some work and some family out this way, but he's gonna.
We got Monster Games coming up.
We have Monster Games. We should probably line up some interviews out there.
I already got one.
Cool.
We're already on that.
Boom. All right. Well, look for big stuff with the podcast, and make sure you're at least going and liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of like old episodes on there that are just audio, but we're starting to do the video stuff, and so we're going to try to do some shorts, and it's just technology is a limiter.
We're working on it.
My son joining the Navy has take a lot of my time. So like we always say, remember to live unbroken,
to be relentless.